Elephants in Baltimore, Panamanium in Buffalo.
I did not see that. You know, talking about playoff possibilities all week, I just basically presumed Marvin Lewis had had his swan song by beating the Lions. You know, the Bengals are going to go to Baltimore with very little to play for. Baltimore would have everything to play for. I did not see what you just heard on AM 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities, the Taj Boyd touchdown pass on 4th and 12 in the game's final minute to give Cincinnati a 31-27 victory. What that did was it put the Buffalo Bills into the playoffs for the first time since home run throwback.
TV was probably 2 seconds late, so I had to move to the front room and actually see the game live. So the guys are excited. This is definitely a goal of ours, but it doesn't just stop here.
So the Buffalo Bills are the surprise team to make the playoffs. I mean, I really thought that it was going to have to take the Jacksonville Jaguars a chance to lose their game, as well as something I didn't see happening, and it didn't, the Chargers losing to the Raiders. It's Black Monday in the NFL. More on that in just a second here. But so the Buffalo Bills are in the playoffs. And the Buffalo Bills get to go where it's warm, to Jacksonville. Jacksonville, meanwhile, although they played their starters, somehow found a way to lose to the Tennessee Titans, ending the Titans' 3-game losing streak. Maybe I shouldn't be as hard as I, am putting out there. How could you lose the Titans? Well, that's not necessarily what I mean. Frankly, I think the Titans, are an up-and-coming team. But you don't think this is their year, do you? Really? Do you? Anyway, what it does cast is some aspersions, I think, on the Jaguars' chances. Look, I've been touting Jacksonville as a real sleeper in the AFC. A real sleeper. Number 1 pass defense in the NFL. Let's not forget that they went to Pittsburgh early on in the year, beat the Steelers by 3 touchdowns, intercepted Ben Roethlisberger 5 times. Leonard Fournette in the backfield, Blake Bortles getting the job done, calling the signals. It appears to be the sort of sleeper team in the NFL this year. I thought they might get a bye a couple of weeks ago. I talked about it on here. They won't. And in fact, their record now is the same as the Kansas City Chiefs at 10 up and 6 down. After they've lost 2 games, one to the San Francisco 49ers, who may have been red hot and won their last 5 games with Jimmy Garoppolo. But still, Jimmy Garoppolo, I understand how hot he is, but allowing 44 points to a 6-10 team with a guy who really, although he's never lost a start, is kind of considered to be a backup quarterback. I mean, would you allow, here's a historical reference, would you really feel that confident about a team that allowed 44 points in a game to Mike Kruzak? There's a reference right there, okay? Right there. There's a reference, I'm going to tell you. But here we go. What I'm going to say is that it looks like now the Jaguars, who, yes, they played most of their starters, and they didn't win a game against a team that looked to be something of a sinking ship coming in. They didn't even score a touchdown on offense. Now there are questions about the Jaguars, although Blake Bortles remains confident.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine. We'll be able to do it. I know personally I got a good amount of experience in losing, so we should be able to overcome that.
What else is he going to say? So this week, what do we have here? This week, the playoffs schedule has been by and large set, and I'll give you let's see here. I'll give you Black Monday here in just a minute and some thoughts on that. But here are the playoffs and the schedule. it's going to be 6 versus 3, 5 versus 4. That means, and I think most people probably know this, but it will be the Bills going to Jacksonville. Okay. It'll be in the AFC then, the Chiefs hosting the Titans. That's one we didn't see. Then, over in the NFC, there will be playing the 5-4 game, a rematch of the NFC South with the Panthers and the Saints. Really a game that could go either way. And then you will have the Atlanta Falcons going to suddenly, well, a Rams team that just got smashed by San Francisco, but the Rams were smart enough to rest their starters. This is the problem with Jacksonville now playing their starters and losing to what looked to be a sinking ship of a team in Tennessee. Now they've got to question themselves after losing that game, especially after losing to San Francisco before. And, now there's the question of, well, it's the first time that we've been in the playoffs since David Gerard, for crying out loud. I know, are there any players left over from that Jacksonville team? I don't know. Speaking of which, Jack Del Rio got fired today yesterday by the Raiders. So there you are. Anyway, let's give you the schedule of these games. First of all, it should be said that the first game that will be played, it will be the Titans and Chiefs. That's at 4:30. That's on Saturday. It's followed the primetime game. This is why the NFL moved back to Los Angeles, so they can put an LA team on in prime time. Falcons at Rams. 1 p.m., Jaguars host the Bills the following Sunday. And then the Panthers will play the Saints Sunday at 4:40. Looking at these games, as I say, I like the Jaguars, even though they have not played very well the last 2 weeks. Like I said, number one pass offense against a team that is really suspect, in my opinion, at quarterback. I don't care what ESPN, the magazine, says about Tyrod Taylor. Trying to tell me he has a better quarterback rating than Jim Kelly? Really? If we want to play that game, Neil O'Donnell has a better quarterback rating than Terry Bradshaw. But let's see here. Panthers, Saints toss-up. Really, I think the others are kind of toss-ups. Titans haven't played real well. Neither have the Chiefs. Of course, you remember last year when the Titans went to Kansas City on a very cold day and Ryan Suckup kicked the 50-odd yard field goal to beat him at the end. And that let people say, wait a minute, the Titans' era of mediocrity is now over. Well, Marcus Mariota broke his leg, so the Titans didn't make the playoffs. The Texans did last year. Now the Titans are in the playoffs. Much of the reason why was because of Marcus Mariota's guile in that game against the Jaguars. I'm not a big fan of the scrambling quarterback. You know that. However, I can't argue when he's picking up the first downs and putting his team into the playoffs. Who could? Sometimes it's just a matter of whatever it takes. I'm not going to argue if, let's say, a guy runs 50 yards on a keeper or something like that to win the ball game. Let's face facts. I'm also relieved. I like this because I think Mike Mularkey will keep his job now. There is a natural progression up after this game. I like Mike Mularkey. This is total non-objective. This comes from covering teams in the NFL that Mike Mularkey coached, that Deshae Townsend played for, that Dick LeBeau coached. I like these guys personally. Okay? And when you get in this business, you start rooting for the people half the time more than the team. So, what can you say? The big play, though, was not so much in the Titans defeating the Jaguars. The Marcus Mariota scrambles but a Marcus Mariota touchdown pass.
Mariota, play fake, going to screen it to Henry, out to the left, he's got room, to the 40, to the 45, to the 50, to the 45, to the 40, to the 35, to the 30, to the 25, to the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, to the end zone. That's 66 yards! Touchdown, Titans!
Mike Keith getting his inner Branch Rickey going. Sounding like he's from Northeast Ohio, holding his R sounds for a year and a half. 66 yards! My goodness, you're evil. But no, nevertheless, that was a big play. Put the Titans up 7-0. And it was the only offensive touchdown actually scored on the day, which I found to be intriguing in a defensive but still exciting game. As I looked through the scores, by the way, a lot of stuff, I was very entertained because I didn't see a lot of these things coming. I mean, I'm kind of fascinated by the Colts evening up the Texans record at 4-12 because, really, honestly, once Watt and Watson come back, don't you think that the Texans are going to be a strong team next year? Of course they are. I was disappointed to see the Bears lose, although I don't think it would have had any impact in John Fox keeping his job or not. He's the first guy. Well, I guess I told you that Jack Del Rio got canned as well. James Harrison getting 2 sacks on the final 2 plays of the game, but also a couple of quarterback hurries and getting in some plays when the game actually did count. That's going to be big. What is James Harrison? I mean, this is a guy, 39 years old, and he comes in the Super Bowl champion, and he starts making plays right off the bat. And if the Patriots do beat the Steelers this year in the playoffs, Mike Tomlin is going to have to answer to a lot of questions. Well, actually, he won't. The Steelers never fire their head coaches, even though the head coach will have given his arch rival for absolutely nothing the very player that will have beaten them. And if you don't believe me, look at the pass defense stats for the New England Patriots this year, and that matter, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are 8th in the NFL in pass defense. The Patriots are at the very bottom of any of the playoff participants and 29th in the league. It's going from memory, 29, maybe 28 or somewhere around there, but at the very bottom of the league. What else? Eli Manning, was it his last game? If so, he went out a winner 18-10. Was it Jason Witten's last game? We'll talk about more on Tri-City Sports Now. It'll probably be my monologue tomorrow, to be honest with you. But the Cowboys, and you heard it here on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-Cities, they forge a winning record. They go to Lincoln Financial Stadium and beat the Eagles 6-0 in what was a fast-paced game, as you might expect. Steelers defeat the Browns. Browns go winless. People saying, does Josh Rosen want to play for the Browns? And he's being coy. And of course, I don't know if anybody really wants to play for the Browns anymore. Not anymore Bernie Kosar's out there manipulating the draft so that they can play for the Cleveland Browns. Okay, Browns go 1-16, first team to do that in about 10 years when the Lions did. I was talking about winless teams on this show. I forgot about the 60 Cowboys who were winless with a tie back in 1960 when they debuted, despite the fact that they had some pretty good quarterbacks, actually. They had some Hall of Famers on that team. They had Meredith. Was Meredith in the Hall of Fame? I may have spoken too soon. Meredith may not be in the Hall of Fame. Bob Lilly, though, I'm sure is, and he was on that team. There was a couple of real Texas guys there from the Metroplexes. Lilly was from TCU and Meredith was from SMU. But all right. Falcons, not really a surprise. They play at home. Panthers had a chance actually to get a bye if some things worked out for them. But they really do not play well. They only put up 10 points, lose 22-10. Even at the end, they were committing turnovers. Of course, you heard the big Taj Boyd touchdown catch. By the way, Taj Boyd, here's something you don't know. I did an article on the high school Taj Boyd was from. Can you imagine a Class A high school, like a place like Cloudland, and all that, putting 5 players in one class into major college football programs. That was Boyd's high school team. Say what you will. I don't even think Maryville puts in 5, D1. And I'm talking not FCS, FBS, major college programs. Say what you will there. All right. The Bengals beat the Baltimore Ravens, sending a lot of people in Baltimore home unhappy. A lot of people in Buffalo are happy as Buffalo goes and beats Miami 22-16. Tampa Bay defeats New Orleans 31-24. That one was the biggest shocker to me. Because New Orleans had something to play for. Tampa Bay, although playing at home, did not. I'm not big on home field advantage in situations like that. That game makes me cast some aspersions on the Saints. It really does. I'll have to look, and I know that, once you kind of see that, do we have a chance here? But you always have to, 49ers, the Rams rested everybody. They didn't care if they had the 3rd or the 4th seed. I guess the Saints really didn't care either, huh? You know about the Titans beating the Jaguars. KC beat Denver in a who cares game. Chargers beat the Raiders in a game we all could see. Garoppolo is the greatest quarterback of all time. Still, he's undefeated, 34-13. Forget Brady. And what was with the Seahawks? People are going to look back at the Seattle Seahawks in this generation and say they underachieved, even with the Super Bowl, even with the lopsided Super Bowl victory against the Broncos. They're going to look at the interception from Russell Wilson, wonder why they didn't run the ball, and they're going to look subsequently at how the team declined in later seasons and not even making the playoffs this year. Of course, the NFC is real tough. I mean, it's tougher than the AFC. NFC, people are saying any of the 6 teams can make it. NFC, AFC, they're saying only the Steelers and the Patriots can. I still, with that great pass defense and turnover ability, and for that matter, Leonard Fournette, kind of wonder about the Jaguars. They really do seem to be a frisky young colt for me, but do you really see a 10-6 team overcoming 13-3 New England or 13-3 Pittsburgh? No matter what the pass defense rating of the Jaguars is as compared to the Patriots. I mean, do you really see that? That's the thing. Yeah, we're going on past seasons there, but I think the Jaguars, like I said, like them for the future. I don't know. They win their game against the Bills, which is likely. Then they'll go to Pittsburgh. They won there this year before. Beat them in the playoffs up there historically. Used to be a great rivalry, and they were division mates. But hey. Other than that, hey, Nick Foles stinks. When we come back, let's talk about Black Monday in the NFL. Next hour, Steve Forbes, Media Watch, and a look at the college football games. By the way, Michigan leading South Carolina 6-0 in the early going. Second quarter, I believe, now. More on all of that Black Monday talk. Tri-City Sports Now.
See Insider. I think the second time round filming was scarier.
Daisy Ridley is back in Star Wars The Last Jedi, and this time she says things are a little more nerve-wracking.
I had a sense of the fandom, I had a sense of the reaction to the film, everything. So there were a lot of questions I had that made the filming process more scary.
That's the Progressive ABC Insider. This year, Progressive Insurance celebrates 5 years and over 500 cars given to veterans.